And at this command center, Green Acres, where you were at, this was the central base operations for this part. So did you had BP big shots of government Coast Guard officials going through there?
There was they had 2 circus tents set up for people, and they were air conditioned, and there was cool down stations along with where people went in and ate lunch, staged out of. Had safety meetings in there in the mornings before you left to go to the beach. But this area was an area where every company that was working on oil cleanup, regardless of what section, and that was from like Fort Morgan all the way to Perdido Key, they staged out of there. They actually parked there, their personal cars there, got on buses, and were dispersed to different areas. But yeah, there was a double wide trailer there that was, for lack of better terminology, I think a covert office for BP. There were several big wheel officials that rolled through there. I mean, you could tell, being around there every day, you knew who was who.
How could you tell?
Well, I mean, you see 5 black Tahoes pull up with blackened windows, and guys that you had never seen before get out with satellite phones in their hands. You know, they ain't a beach tech. You don't think they're a general foreman or a tractor driver, you know? So, I mean, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they were somebody. You didn't know whether they were OSHA or whether they were BP or whether they were federal government. You didn't know exactly who they were. But I guess the thing that perturbed me worse than the way that we were all treated and the lack of information, which was awful. I was mentioning this story to you, and I'll go ahead and put it out there. We had a smoking area, a tent where you went to smoke. And I was sitting on my ATV smoking a cigarette after lunch one day, and 2 guys were in this tent on satellite phones. And they were talking, of course, not paying any attention to me. They didn't know who I was from Adam. I didn't know them from Adam. But one puts his hand over his phone and looks at the other one and said, well, the numbers are in. And I thought that was a pretty interesting comment. So I just, you know, how you kind of try to eavesdrop and not look like you're eavesdropping. But he made the statement to his friend there that they had collected enough oil off the top of that wellhead to pay for everything they'd spent at that point, which infuriated me to think that I had just taken a $10 an hour cut in pay. But glad to still have my job and glad to be able to work these hours. But I get to thinking about all these poor people that were beach techs that really needed that income, that had been laid off. And they laid them off in mass numbers. And they never gave you any heads up about it. I mean, it's only, you know, I've worked with people most of my career. I was in advertising for years, you know, in real estate now, what there is of it. But you at least have the courtesy to tell somebody we think this job is going to work out in 3 or 4 days, or 4 or 5 days from now we may have to lay some people off. I mean, that's just common courtesy, especially in an economy like we have going, especially down here. You'd show up to work, get on the bus, sometimes they'd come get you off the bus and say, sorry, go home, sign this sheet, we'll pay you for an hour for showing up. Sorry, that's just wrong. Especially when you can walk out there on that beach anywhere from Fort Morgan, Dolphin Island, all the way to Perdido Key and find oil everywhere.
How much oil?
I would say in the last 3 weeks that it's getting heavier than it was. We went through a period in late August, early September, where we just wasn't seeing a whole lot. Of course, we didn't realize at that point the reason we wasn't seeing it is because the tides that came in every night, every morning, covered it up. I had one, I would say the kid was probably 5 years old, with his parents on a public beach with a toy bucket and shovel that dug down, what do you figure, 3 or 4 inches? And just started having fun playing and it's wet. Oh, of course his mother freaked out. I freaked out. Immediately grabbed some of these absorbent pads. We went and rubbed him down. But why the hell didn't they tell people that? Why were we out there on the beach in all of this PPE and they refused to close the damn beaches? Why did they wait so long to tell people they couldn't go in the water? I mean, I even had neighbors that I considered close friends as late as a month ago that I would see out, and I would say, I'd get in a conversation with them. They'd ask me how I was doing. I'd say, you know, go to Bay Minette or go to Greenville and get you a bank box, you know, secure bank box. And I said, take all your valuables, your jewelry, your personal papers, everything that you want to be able to put your hands on, and put them in that safety deposit box. What are you talking about? I said, if we get a storm in here, and we're anywhere from 50 to 75 miles from the line, and we're on the eastern side, I said, everything from Foley south is going to be contaminated, and you can't go on. And of course, they want to argue, they can't do that. I said, oh, yeah, they can. I said, if you're not hazmat qualified or hazmat certified, you won't be able to go home. And then you're going to have to be accompanied by a hazmat team.